What's going on, you wonderful people? I hope life's good, and welcome to the channel. Today I have to do something that seems to be hard for people to do on the internet. I have to admit that I was wrong. Leading up to the release of the Battlefield 6 REDSEC Battle Royale Mode, I was honestly kind of dismissive about the idea of even trying it out. I loved old school PUBG, but I never really got into any of the other Battle Royale games that came out after it. I dabbled in Warzone a little bit, but it never really hooked me, and I was under the assumption that REDSEC was basically just going to be Warzone with a new coat of paint. So I just kind of assumed that I wouldn't like it, and I wasn't that excited for it. Well, I'm here now after a few days of playing it with some friends, and honestly, I've really enjoyed it so far. So that's what I want to talk about today, my thoughts on the Battlefield 6 Battle Royale mode, and also about the Season 1 content more generally, the new map, the new guns, and the battle pass and the skins. We'll start with the juiciest part of this update, the Battle Royale mode for Battlefield 6. Like I said, I was expecting it to just feel like Warzone, and in some ways it does, but kind of only really on the surface. Visually, a lot of the BF6 REDSEC experience does feel like Warzone. The helicopter drop sequence and the cutscenes, the loot crates, the UI, and even the missions that you can complete on the map all have sort of an uncanny resemblance to Warzone. But the gameplay manages to distance itself from Warzone enough to stand on its own. I honestly think the visual similarities to Warzone are more of a psychological trick by DICE to make the Warzone audience more susceptible to giving the game a chance in the first place. In some ways, I think that that's a bit of a sacrifice because now REDSEC has less of its own distinct visual identity. That is a recurring problem for Battlefield 6 as a whole, though. They made the entire UI and the menu system of this game into a carbon copy of the Call of Duty HQ. And I think they did this very deliberately to lure Call of Duty players into this game, and hope that the familiar feeling makes it easier for them to adjust to a different game. Back to my main point though, once I got into the game and played a couple matches, I was pretty impressed by how DICE managed to strike what feels like a healthy middle ground between the two extremes on the Battle Royale spectrum. REDSEC is not exactly as slow and methodical as classic PUBG, and it's also nowhere near as fast and manic as modern Warzone or Apex. It falls somewhere in between and kind of makes room for people who are fans of either or both. Time to kill feels fast enough that you really have to consider your positioning and use cover or concealment, but slow enough that you don't just get one-tapped while you're crossing a street. One of the best decisions they made in this game, in my opinion, is to just have everyone have the same level of armor, so there's no difference in time to kill between players regardless of how much looting you've done. Everyone has essentially the same health pool, and I really think that's a good choice because it makes time to kill very consistent, and you can actually get a feeling for how many bullets it's going to take to kill someone, and you don't have to guess whether or not they have higher tiers of armor before you engage them. Movement in the game is fast enough to make repositioning and moving around the map convenient, but it's not so fast that you constantly lose track of enemy players. Weapons feel pretty good overall. Different guns feel like they fill their roles properly, but they also aren't totally useless outside of their intended purpose. And so far, everything that I've picked up has felt pretty good to use. There hasn't been any single gun that's felt like it just outclassed everything else. Death is a punishing experience, as it should be in a battle royale game, but the game also has a healthy number of second chance mechanics. So you can actually fight over the good loot early on and not feel like you just wasted your time because you died early. I'm willing to bet that the free respawn mechanic in the early game will probably get old and get adjusted eventually, but for right now, I really like it. There are missions and stuff that you can do on the map to get loot and rewards for your squad as well, just like in Warzone, but they didn't overload the map with objective markers. I also really like how they abandoned the money system that Warzone used and just streamlined the rewards as a gear drop instead of making you stack up money and then cash in at a buy station for a ridiculous amount of stuff all at once. The flow of gameplay throughout the match also feels like it has a nice rise and fall to the action most of the time. It starts out feeling really hectic and crowded, and then kind of quiets down as squads clear their area and loot for a bit during the mid-game. before getting crazy again in the end game when the circle pushes everyone together. Over the games that I played with my squad, there was a healthy mix of aggressive pushing and full-on rat gameplay laying in a bush waiting for people to show themselves. It never felt like one way or the other was the only way to succeed. One of the best compromises they struck in REDSEC has to be the use of the Battlefield class system in the Battle Royale mode. Each class gets access to their gadgets and passive traits from the main game, and your team composition can actually have a pretty big impact on the match. Since there is vehicles in the BR mode, having an engineer on your team can be the difference between a top placement and an unfortunate trip back to the menu. A support player can really help with keeping the squad alive, and let you skip the process of searching for ammo in the late game so you don't have to expose yourself as much. The recon player's drone is honestly a godsend in the late game when the circle starts getting tight and you really need intel to see where the last few squads have positioned themselves. And assault, well, I guess the latter is pretty sweet for getting into awesome camping spots. They didn't go for the full-on hero shooter approach to the character classes, but instead they just gave them each a bit of their kit from the main Battlefield game, and these subtle bonuses added way more to the gameplay dynamics than I expected. I especially like how class-specific gadgets are lootable only by players who are using that class. It adds some individual loot pools for each player to search for, so your medic is looking for an ambulance to get med supplies for the team, while the engineer is looking for a demolition stockpile to grab RPGs. I kind of hope they expand on this a little bit with more gadgets and stuff in the future, but honestly, even as it is right now, I think the class system is a great addition to the Battle Royale formula. So overall, I've really enjoyed REDSEC so far, way more than I thought I would. We'll have to give it some time to see if people figure out how to break the game or create a really one-sided meta, but for now, I'm pleasantly surprised. Your mileage may vary, especially if you just don't like the Battle Royale game mode, but I encourage you to give it a try. You might be as surprised as I was. And honestly, to speak to like the biggest, most newsworthy reposted clickbait complaint about this mode, the vehicles like tanks and helicopters and stuff being in the game, it is kind of annoying to get knocked out of the circle late in the game by a tank, but also maybe you should have brought an engineer on the squad, because 2 RPGs is all it takes to get a triple kill or a quad kill squad wipe on those tanks. It's really not that complicated. Helicopter directly above.
We killed all those guys then, eh?
Got the helicopter.
Nice, that was the last one, eh?
Oh my god, the amount of sniper scopes coming there.
Yeah!
Oh
my god, there's a fucking tank driving over us too. Oh my god. Got it. Oh my god. Let's go. Let's go. There it is. Boom! Look at that!
4 up.
So with that out of the way, I'd also like to quickly talk about the rest of the Season 1 content we've gotten so far, starting with the new main game map, Blackwell Fields. I feel like a little bit of a crazy person because the internet seems to be erupting with hate for this new map, but honestly, I really enjoy it, and it might be one of my favorites in the entire game simply because of how different it feels compared to the rest of the maps in the game right now. This map is set up as a battle over control of oil fields in California. So the terrain is basically rolling hills, scrub vegetation, and industrial buildings. It's a very open map with long sight lines and lots of obvious vantage points for snipers and tanks, which seems to be the main complaint about it. I really like how big the map is, and the large areas you need to move through between points makes your whole team have to work to clear a zone before you can move through it. And you have to kind of make a concentrated push on any one objective to actually take it from the enemy. Almost every other map in the game has like a labyrinth of alleyways and streets connecting each objective, so small groups can slip around the side and steal points from the enemy team. And most gunfights on the objective are at point blank range and end instantly. Blackwell Fields is one of the few maps in the game where you can actually have back and forth gunfights between full squads, where both sides are trading shots, reviving, repositioning, and the whole fight doesn't just end instantly in a hail of automatic fire. I think I enjoy this map because it feels more like something you might play in a game like Squad or Rising Storm. It has a lot of no man's land and a lot of power positions that you want to fight for control of. It's not a perfect map, the snipers do get out of control sometimes and the tanks can be annoying, though less annoying if you're an engineer main like me. It can feel bad being spawn trapped and simply not being able to reach another point. I just really like the pacing of the matches on this map. It feels like you have time to breathe, to think about your next move, and to set up a defensive position. A lot of the other maps are just so full of alleyways and buildings and blind 90-degree corners that you never have a real front line to fight over. But this one feels different, and I just enjoy that contrast a lot. Also, this is the only map in the entire game where I have felt encouraged to use a magnified optic and a backup red dot sight, and I love that. As for the rest of the Season 1 content, the new weapons seem alright, but I honestly haven't been able to use them enough to give a strong opinion because I'm still grinding my way towards the carbine unlock. The new carbine feels like a nice addition to the category, but I've only been able to use the blueprint upgrade for it. And I've only been able to use the scout sniper like once in the BR mode, and I fired a total of 4 shots with it, so I don't really have a strong opinion one way or the other on that one. The skins in the battle pass are a healthy mix of grounded milsim style skins and tactical airsoft cosplay loadouts. I don't think any of them are egregious enough to warrant the crying that we see on Reddit, but I don't know, people like to complain, so let them complain. The one thing I will agree on though is these weird sci-fi foregrips that they put on some of these battle pass weapon skins. They're not a good look. Overall, I give this first content update a pretty good review. It's not perfect, but I've enjoyed all the new stuff and I haven't experienced a lot of new glitches or crashes, so I'm happy with that so far. I'm really excited to see what comes next, and I hope they have plans to do lots of limited time events in the Battle Royale map like Warzone did over the years, though hopefully they don't get too crazy with it. That's all I wanted to talk about today, but what are your thoughts on this Season 1 update? Let me know if you've been enjoying the BR mode, what kind of builds you're running for it, and if you have any hot tips for me to get better at it. Thanks for checking out the video. I have a link to my Twitch stream in the description if you want to come check out some gameplay live. And until next time, stay safe out there, everyone.